Tonight, ITV News Central presents a special programme on the future of HS2 with presenters Samina Ali Khan and Matt Teal.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Central, live across the Midlands.
With the new Prime Minister ordering a review of HS2, tonight we're looking at the future of high-speed rail and its impact across our region.
The high-speed rail line has been 10 years in the making, and behind me, building work is underway here at Curzon Street. This is the site of its flagship station here in Birmingham.
We're also in Towton in Nottinghamshire, which is key to the project and its extension to the north. But with continued political uncertainty, is HS2 still on track?
Phase 1 of HS2 runs from London Euston to Birmingham. Phase 2 is effectively the Y-split, with one line running from Birmingham up to Manchester
and the other from Leeds via Towton. On tonight's programme, we'll be looking at the spiralling cost of the project, the benefits it could bring to the Midlands, but also the human and environmental cost.
I'm at London Euston, where preparatory work has already started in anticipation of HS2.
And I'll be on the UK's first and so far only high-speed rail line, finding out what it's like and what impact it's had.
Good evening to you. HS2 might still be a long way off, but for people here in Birmingham, it already seems pretty real. I'm here at Curzon Street, where the 6-acre site has been worked on by 350 people so far for months, paving the way for the West Midlands hub. But to date, not an inch of track has been laid, and now the new Prime Minister Boris Johnson has ordered a review into a project which is going to cost anywhere between 56 billion and 100 billion pounds, depending on who you believe. Well, tonight, in an exclusive poll for this programme, we can reveal that only 26% of people in the Midlands actually support it. We'll be looking at the pros and the cons of the project in a moment. But first, let's hear from three groups of people whose lives have already been massively affected by HS2. Andy Bevan reports.
3 letters from HS2 to 3 very different property owners, all battling for compensation. But these documents have one thing in common. They all contain bad news. The Taroney family have been in the scrap metal business since the 1950s. Their 7 yards in Aston lie in the path of the Phase 1 line, and they must move out by October. But they're entitled to compensation, estimated at £2.9 million. Back in November 2016, Russell Taroney put their case to a House of Lords Select Committee and was given this assurance by HS2.
We are agreed that he will put forward information to allow a business case to be taken forward for an early advance payment of that compensation.
The Taroneys took that to mean money up front, but HS2 has since told them it only pays out once a property is vacated. To buy and prepare a new site, Russell Taroney has had to cash in 3 pensions and take out a £2 million bridging loan on the family home. HS2 has paid £556,000 for 2 of the Taroney yards already handed over, but that's less than 20% of what the family say they're owed, and they're staying put until they get it.
This land is our freehold, this is ours, so if they think they can come and take it off us without paying for it rightly, then they've got another thing coming.
When Andy and Lynn Craddock moved to Hopton near Stafford in 2013, they knew HS2 was probably coming, but they were told it would run in a tunnel and their glorious countryside view would stay. The couple both now have health problems and their steep garden is difficult to manage, so last October they decided to sell up and retire to France. But when they returned from a house hunting trip across the Channel, there was a shock.
We didn't get a single person inquire about the house at all. And
it's because the village is blighted.
Exactly.
No one wants to buy in Hopton.
The village is full of for sale signs because now the Phase 2B line is planned to run above ground, just yards from homes like the Craddocks. Engineers have already been testing the soil. So the couple applied for HS2 to buy their house, but they've been turned down twice because, says HS2, they knew about the line when they moved in.
When they rejected it, I actually had a breakdown and it caused a lot of problems mentally for me. So I picked myself up and we reapplied, and that's where we are at the moment.
Diane Scott has been in her 17th century cottage at Long Eaton in Derbyshire for 19 years and has spent £100,000 updating it. But it lies in the Phase 2B safeguarding zone and is earmarked for demolition. The cottage can only be sold to HS2, but last November a figure of £290,000 was agreed and contracts were drawn up. Then in March, Diane got a letter from HS2 reducing the valuation by £50,000.
I was furious. I couldn't believe it. The fact that the surveyor hadn't even been round to my property to view it.
Diane's MP complained to HS2 and got a reply from Chief Executive Mark Thurston saying he considered the lower valuation to be reasonable.
I'm just told it's taxpayers' money, and well, I'm a taxpayer, you know. Yeah, it's criminal what they've done.
Even HS2 doesn't know how many more of these letters it'll have to send out, but one thing's for certain, as the line makes its way through the Midlands, so does the misery. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
3 very different stories of people affected by the HS2 line. Well, Audrey Hurrell from Trall in Nottinghamshire is also affected by the planned route and joins us now. Audrey, HS2 have just told you recently that they want your house.
That's right. About 6 weeks ago they posted a letter through the letterbox and told us that they were taking 20 houses down our street, and that's it. Nothing we could do.
and this is your forever house, isn't it?
Yes, we moved into a bungalow 6 years ago because my husband struggles with the stairs. We thought, that's it, like you say, forever house. And yeah, we're just gutted that they're thinking of taking us, knocking us down.
Yeah, well, I can imagine your reaction, but what sort of correspondence have you had from HS2? What have they said?
All we've had is the letter what they posted through the door telling us that we was one of 20 houses, and we've been to a meeting and that's it. Nothing else since. So we're still waiting to hear what's going on, basically.
And are you concerned that it's going to affect the value of your house?
We are, yes. I mean, they're not going to, apart from the fact they're not going to pay us what it's worth, they say they will, but will they? And where do we find somewhere at that value anyway? And what suits us, bungalow-wise and what have you? Because there aren't any being built, so we're just
waiting to see.
Just waiting. It's terrible.
So what do you do now then, Audrey? What are the plans?
Sit and wait and see what's going to go on. Wait until they confirm it, really. They said it's another 2 or 3 years before it's confirmed that it's going to be down our street, and then we'll think again of where we go, what we do, and everything else that's going to go on. So
in the meantime, you're living with the uncertainty.
Yes, we're just living day to day and just talk to the neighbours. They're all the same, and just, well, that's it. There's nothing you can do, is there? Just sit in limbo, basically.
Well, we certainly hope it does work out for you, Audrey.
Thank you very much.
And we hope you get some news from HS2 quite soon.
So do we. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, HS2 Limited do say that they can't comment on individual cases, but we will be speaking to the Chief Executive Officer about the project later in this programme. So what about the economics? Well, experts predict that the economic benefits of HS2 for the East Midlands could be huge. The creation of the East Midlands hub at Toton Sidings could cost around £500 million. But experts predict it could be worth 3 times that for the whole of the East Midlands in the long term. Well, the government's current plans would also see the extension of the tram line from here to the hub, which is about half a mile away, sort of in that direction. I'm joined now by Brent Poland from Stop HS2 Erewash. And Brent, it does sound on the face of it that there's going to be some great economic benefits for people in the entire region.
Completely refute that. All economic benefits are subsidised by us, the taxpayers. So we're actually going to be funding these. They're going to say they're going to create jobs, but how many jobs are they actually going to create? And whose money are they actually spending? We're going to be paying for HS2 in this local area twofold. Central government taxes, which goes towards building HS2, and then of course the mess that HS2 has to make we then have to clean up with our local taxes. So we don't believe it's actually going to create an economic case that's worthwhile and viable for us. We already have a railway line, so any incremental economic value we should already have. It's not as if we're getting something new.
But we do have to increase capacity.
Yeah, we do have to increase capacity in our local hospital, which has got bed cuts at the moment. We increase capacity in our primary and secondary schools. Nobody died yesterday because of railway capacity. I know it's important, but there are other solutions to railway capacity besides spending £100 billion plus. The International Space Station costs that. It's really solving a problem by using lots of money which could be created another way. Great Central Line could be reopened. Other ways to reduce capacity, including cutting demand, opening old railways. So we don't agree the capacity is something that we think is a different rationale that HS2 have had. They keep changing their rationale.
OK, Brent, we'll have to leave it there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Now, according to our survey, half of all respondents do think it's important to have more capacity on trains between the Midlands and London. But almost 2/3 don't think HS2 will be value for money. It was originally estimated to cost £33 billion, but that figure has since soared. The new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has reportedly said it could cost as much as £100 billion. But those championing the project say the investment is worth it in the long term. Mark Goff has been looking at whether High Speed 2 will bring high returns for the Midlands, and he begins his report on a train so overcrowded that he's had to abandon his broadcast camera and film it on his mobile phone.
This is the 7:15 from University Station through to Lichfield, and it's pretty busy as normal. But the government reckons that HS2 will make crowded trains a thing of the past. At the moment, intercity trains, commuter trains and freight trains all use the same lines. The thinking is that the intercity services will switch to the new high-speed line, and that should create more space on the old existing lines for more commuter trains. And it's needed. More and more people are using the trains more and more often. In the last 10 years, passenger journeys in the Midlands have gone up from 68.3 million to 129.3 million. But HS2 is also about improving the economy. HS2 Limited, the company set up to build the line, say it'll be a catalyst for growth in the country, creating 30,000 jobs just to build it, 3,000 more to run it, and 2,000 apprenticeships. It'll also give Midlands firms a wider pool of potential employees and help attract and keep talent. And, they say, it'll bring £92 billion to the UK economy. Then there are the knock-on effects. HS2 says for every pound the line costs to build, it'll bring £2.30 in economic growth. And many agree. The West Midlands Combined Authority says it'll create 100,000 jobs in the whole region, adding £14 billion to the local economy. This is the Clayton Hotel, which is owned by an Irish hotel chain. From the rooms they can see the preparatory work for the HS2 station at Curzon Street. And because of HS2, they're adding 44 more rooms and building a second hotel in the city centre. For them, HS2 makes Birmingham a great place to invest.
HS2 linking to London will be 40 minutes. It means that Birmingham most definitely will become probably the second largest corporate city in the UK. We see kind of the next 10 years as a lot of expanding, a lot of positive things happening in the city.
The station at Towton will bring 13,350 jobs and £5.4 billion to the economy, according to reports from local councils. But the Government Affairs Committee in 2015 said investing in transport infrastructure doesn't necessarily lead to economic growth. And in 2014, the University of Oxford said it can't be assumed that HS2 will automatically bring economic growth. HS2 has changed its business case since those reports came out, but MPs still say more up-to-date analysis on the economic benefits is needed. Mark Goff, ITV News.
Our poll shows that 26% of people are in favour of HS2. It also revealed that 39% oppose it altogether, while 26% were neutral. The campaign group Stop HS2 was set up in 2010. Earlier, we spoke to Joe Rukin from the campaign about our poll, which also shows more than half of those questioned feel it's important to increase capacity between London and the Midlands.
The fact that people say that the railways need new capacity and that they don't want HS2 shows that the public really understand that this case for HS2 is all spin. It doesn't deliver capacity where it is needed, and it will suck up transport investment. It requires £11 billion worth of cuts to existing rail services.
Well, 54% of people in our poll said they were concerned about the environmental impact of HS2. Yet HS2 claims it is the green alternative. Charlotte Cross has been looking at the claims and the counterclaims.
Sellers Wood in Nottingham is a gem at the very heart of the English countryside, offering a rare and varied habitat for the wildlife it houses. But Phase 2 of HS2 is due to destroy a huge chunk of the surrounding woodland. And environmental groups have voiced serious concerns about this kind of damage all along the route.
We think HS2 have underestimated the impact on wildlife all the way through the consultation. There are phrases in the consultation talking about temporary loss of habitat. Well, we don't believe that's an accurate phrase. The habitat will be lost forever. Habitats can take centuries, if not longer, to evolve. So we won't have the quality of habitats that we currently have today.
In Birmingham, Park Hall Wildlife Reserve near Castle Vale has already been taken over by HS2, ready for construction work to begin. The Wildlife Trust here estimates they'll lose up to 90% of this ancient woodland, and they're worried about pollution from the building work running into the River Tame.
And that forms one of the biggest and most emotive arguments against HS2. It'll destroy valuable habitats with indirect impact on environments just like this too. And campaigners say it simply isn't worth it. But HS2 insists it is taking measures to mitigate the damage it's causing.
This is how they plan to do it, creating what they've called a green corridor.
And will create new homes for wildlife, including a bat house.
And they've already started creating some of those new habitats, like this one in Hams Hall in Birmingham. They say they're aiming to be the most environmentally friendly infrastructure project the country's ever seen.
In reality, when you're delivering infrastructure of the scale of HS2 and the benefits that it will bring, there is no railway route that can avoid everything. What we've been doing is planning for many years to strike the right balance between avoiding sensitive environmental features and communities to deliver what is going to be a much more improved and reliable service with much more increased capacity.
And going by train is currently one of the most environmentally friendly ways to travel. Estimates for the carbon emissions of Phase 2 are 13.6 grams of carbon dioxide per passenger per kilometre when it opens in 2027. By 2041, they say that'll be down to 2.9 grams. By comparison, they say intercity rail currently emits 22 grams, and cars travelling city to city emit 67.
Rail travel is much better than car travel, but not rail projects like HS2. HS2 is incredibly environmentally damaging. Clearly, we could do much better things with that money, starting with investment in the existing rail network, improving capacity, improving frequency, electrifying lines. All of those things would be much cheaper and have much greater effects on people's lives.
HS2 says these alternatives wouldn't work. But technology is advancing all the time. Virgin has already developed a futuristic tube, which it claims can zip people between cities at a fraction of the cost of high-speed rail. So the question is this: will the environment be left paying the price for a system which could be out of date before it even opens?
Well, assuming HS2 does go ahead, it won't be the UK's first high-speed rail line. HS1 runs from St Pancras International in London down to the Channel Tunnel. Eurostar uses it, and South Eastern runs a domestic high-speed service to the south coast. Our reporter Yasmin Bodelbai is live on one of those trains for us now. Yasmin, where are you?
I am hurtling through the Kent 140 miles an hour. Yes, we are live on a high-speed train, so if the signal does drop out, please do bear with us. There's nothing like a little bit of jeopardy, is there, on live telly? In a couple of minutes' time, we're going to be pulling into Ashford International. So the journey from St Pancras in the past would have taken about an hour and 20 minutes. Today, on a high-speed train, it can take under 40 minutes. It was 10 years ago that High Speed 2, the planned proposals were put ahead, and it was also 10 years ago that this domestic high-speed rail line launched, and since then over 100 million passengers have used it. Let's grab a quick word with just one of them now. Kathy, you travel a long way, don't you, for work? What has high-speed rail meant for you on a daily basis?
Well, I travel every day from Ramsgate into St Pancras and then onto Goldholt Road, which is in about 2.5 hours door to door, so every second really counts. And without the high-speed link, it'll probably take me another 20-30 minutes, so that's an extra hour of my day travelling, so it saves an awful lot of time.
So a great big impact for you, but it is fair to say that when HS1 was being planned, there was a lot of opposition. People worried about the countryside, worried about their homes, about noise, all the things that we've been talking about really this evening. Let's put that to Paul Prentice now from South Eastern Trains.
We were doing so well there, weren't we? But they were going 140 miles an hour down there in Kent, so they did pretty well. I'm joined now by Mark Thurston, about as quick as that guy there, actually. Joined now by Mark Thurston, the Chief Executive Officer of HS2 Limited. Mark, 63% of people, according to our poll, don't think HS2 is a good idea. We've heard already on the programme about the environmental impact, the impact on people's lives, the escalating cost. Is it worth it?
All we have to remember, Matt, is that HS2 is much more than a railway. This will transform our rail network. It will become the spine of our rail system, joining north and south. It will transform our transport system, actually, because one of the things that HS2 will do will create some massive connectivity between our major cities. It will create capacity on the existing network, which will allow us not just to run better local services, but will allow us to get roads and lorries off onto the railway.
Just on that point of capacity, a lot of people saying, yes, this is great if you want to get from London to Birmingham quickly, but what about if you want to get to Coventry, to Leicester, to Nottingham? We can create that space for capacity, but that doesn't necessarily mean the capacity is going to instantly be there.
No, once you move all the high-speed traffic onto the new dedicated high-speed system, I mean, you'll be able to travel from here in the Midlands to Leeds, Manchester or Birmingham in about 45 minutes. We'll have an interchange in the East Midlands. The new interchange at Tote will transform that part of the East Midlands, and of course if you're travelling at the moment between Birmingham and Leeds, it takes about 2 hours by train. Once we've got the high-speed system in place, there's huge capacity then for much better local services.
OK, what about the cost? It was originally going to be 30-odd billion, then it went up to 50-odd billion. That could be now 86 billion. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, the other day said it could be 100 billion. How much is it going to cost?
So that's what we've been working on. I said at the end of last year that we have cost pressures, and we've been working with our contractors, with our designers, to make the scheme affordable. Of course, HS2 has to be value for money. It's got a huge amount of taxpayers' money, but we mustn't lose sight of the benefits. HS2 will transform our country. It's about bringing actually Britain together. The Prime Minister only the weekend in Manchester talked about how we have this north-south divide on our transport systems, and HS2 is a part of a much broader agenda to give us much better rail services around the country, and certainly much better rail services here in the Midlands and into the north of England.
Do you know how much it's going to cost ultimately?
That's what we're continuing to work on. Obviously a new administration has come into place only in the last few days. We're probably expecting to meet the new Secretary of State next week, so we'll need in due course to brief him and the new ministerial team on where we think HS2 is going to be.
Because the difficulty seems to be, to me, if we don't know how much it's going to cost, how can we possibly estimate whatever economic benefits there will be down the line?
History tells us, and these big projects are all the same, that they divide opinion. Coming back to your question about your poll, and for 10 years of its existence now, HS2 has clearly divided opinion both locally and nationally. But experience says that these major transport arteries ultimately deliver huge benefit to the economy, whether it's the major road corridors, the M25, and in fact your colleague there who was on the fast link to the Kent coast, which allows us now to go right to London, to the Paris city centre. So the benefits always prove on transport to be worth it.
Just quickly, 10 seconds left. Are you worried about this review that the Prime Minister has ordered?
No, of course a new administration is going to review something as big and as important as HS2, and we're ready for that, and we expect that to play out over the next few weeks.
OK, Mark Thurston, Chief Executive Officer of HS2 Limited, thank you very much for talking to us on the programme.
HS2 is controversial and has always been a deeply political issue dividing the parties. The scheme was started under a Labour government and driven forward by the Conservatives. However, the new Prime Minister hasn't always sounded totally convinced. Our political correspondent Alison Mackenzie joins us now from Euston Station in London, where HS2 trains from the Midlands are due to start arriving in 7 years. Alison.
Yes, good evening from Euston. £1.5 billion is being spent here getting ready for HS2. Our cameras have been here all day. Contractors on site clearing the way, demolishing, a hotel I stayed at once is no longer there. But politically, we saw Boris Johnson, didn't we, on the steps of Downing Street declaring his passion for big rail projects. And we learned his views on HS2 on the ITV Leaders Debate in answer to a question from Julie Etchingham.
Should HS2 be abandoned, Mr Johnson?
I don't think it should be abandoned. I think it's extremely expensive, and I think the business case is dubious. I think we should examine it. We should do a review, and I want to see whether the cash, which is huge, 100 billion, should be better prioritised in the north of the country.
You. Now, in that exclusive YouGov survey, we did see a difference between Remain and Leave voters, so that might affect the Prime Minister's view. Leave voters, it showed us, are by YouGov, are much more likely to oppose HS2 than Remainers, so could that affect his decisions in future? No Transport Minister is here with me tonight. We offered the Secretary of State, Grant Shapps, to come on and answer our questions. He preferred not available, but they did say in a statement to us the purpose of the review is to establish if the government is satisfied that HS2 represents value for money. And on that Y plan section of the route, they say the review will decide whether or how to proceed. And of course, the Y plan doesn't even come before Parliament until 2020.
OK, Alison in Westminster, thank you. Interesting stuff. Well, that is almost it from us for tonight. Here at Curzon Street, you can see the effects of the preparatory work so far of HS2, but it's still years away from being operational. The first trains won't be tested on the Birmingham to London line until 2024, and we won't be able to use them until 2 years later when the line opens in 2026. That's if it all happens on time. Well, that's goodbye from the team here in Birmingham and over to Samina, where the wait for HS2 will be even longer.
Yes, the plans here haven't even been signed off. Birmingham to Manchester and Birmingham to Leeds via Totem will only start after all bills have finally passed in 2023. If everything does go to plan, the full network is expected to open 10 years later. According to our survey, a third of people we spoke to don't believe the first phase will ever happen. However, if you're a supporter of HS2, you can take comfort from the fact that a third do think it will happen. Wesley Smith will have a full roundup of the day's news in our late bulletin at 10:30. And of course, there's more of the day's news on our website. For now, though, from the team here and in Birmingham and indeed throughout the country, from all of us, good night.